Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Hochberg. I feel that if there's a challenge such as my Republican colleague put forward, then correct it. But with 15 more working days for the House before the charter expires, I think it's important to look at an index of numbers that shows the good that it has done for the American economy. 60, that's the approximate number of export credit agencies operated by our competitors in an increasingly competitive global market. And they are just waiting for a chance to grab new businesses away from American exporters if our bank folds. 3,340. That's the number of small businesses directly supported by the services of the bank. And 164,000. That's the number of American jobs that will be lost without congressional action. 1.3 million. That's the number of private sector jobs the bank has supported since 2009 at no cost to the American taxpayer. And finally, 0. That's the good that will accrue if we allow our export bank to die. And if you look at recent numbers, last year alone, they supported $27.4 billion of exports, U.S. exports, at no cost to the taxpayer. Absolutely no cost to the taxpayer. So I think that in this competitive world, I would like approval to place in the record, unanimous approval, the export data analysis. And in this, China provided 17 times more support for their exports than the U.S., with approximately half the GDP.
Without objection.
And Canada alone provided more than 3 times more support for their exports than the U.S., and the U.S. had a GDP over 9 times larger than Canada. And there are 60 different countries that are providing support for their exports. So I strongly believe that we should not unilaterally disarm. If there is a challenge, if there is a problem, correct it. That's the American way. And go forward in supporting good jobs and our exports. And what I find so troubling is that in this committee, we have hearing after hearing on access to capital, how difficult it is for startups, small businesses, to find access to capital. Well, this is our access to capital. This is a way to help small businesses and large businesses export and create more American jobs. So I'd like to ask you, Mr. Hochberg, have you seen the private sector trade lenders stepping up during this period where you said there's uncertainty and people are looking for the financing, they don't know if they can get it, but are these private sector lenders coming in and providing the support? Or have these businesses simply been moving their production abroad to take advantage of other countries' export agencies?
Well, thank you, Congresswoman Maloney. What we have seen in the last 2 years, frankly, is the private sector, generally speaking, has stepped up a lot more. There's a lot more liquidity, there's a lot more bank lending, and there's been less of a requirement for our work, which is a good thing. It shows that the private sector is working better. However, in the small business space, they always have a difficulty. We have not really seen the private sector stepping up that strongly in small business. And to your last point, I think that you will see a number of companies, but they'll mostly be larger companies that actually have the ability to move production, may well move production offshore. You also may see that companies that were looking to locate here in the United States, because we have a great workforce, rule of law, cheap energy or inexpensive energy, one of the things they also come here for is so they can export from here, and we're an important part of that factor.
Great. Well, have you seen with our competitors, are they increasing their support for their export credit agencies or decreasing their support?
By and large, overwhelmingly increasing, and more of them are also getting into short-term lending, which actually benefits their small businesses. So I think we're going to see more competitive pressure on small business exporters as a result of more and more entities getting into the game.
Thank you. My time has expired.
Time